pregame show, and it says we're ready on the Video Pro, and we should get the second. There we go. We got the second live signal, and I'm just going to make sure, get this mic closer to my mouth. Just going to make sure that we are live here. See if I can find this puppy. And of course it's not showing up on my iPad yet. Okay, there it is. All right, so we are live, and we do have audio, and it looks like we've got 4 folks in the house. We got Chi-Town, California. There you go. In the house, another beautiful day in sunny San Diego. Well, that's what you're supposed to have. The weatherman, you know, can basically just say the same thing every day down in San Diego, and he's right. Beautiful. 77 degrees and sunny in downtown San Diego. That's how that goes, right? Or is it 70 degrees? Anyway, it'll work. So we're going to talk about the Batman. Batman and the Batgirl. Oh, my focus is off. I think my focus is off. Let me fix that. Stand by. I'm going to fix that focus. Okay, back in position here. Live television. Now we got that focus right. I forgot the focus. This was a makeshift broadcast thrown together, and in response to Mark Goldberg's video about his Batman that he's had for 3 years, I think he said, and how cool it is, and how he likes it better than the new Batman or the Batgirl. The Batman with the Jubilee bracelet with the slightly toned down lugs. And I've heard different reports on that. I've heard reports that the lugs are slightly toned down from the earlier super case on the earlier Batman GMT. And then I've heard that it's an optical illusion, that it's just because of the Jubilee bracelet that they look like they're toned down. But I think they are toned down a little bit. And I think the Jubilee bracelet also makes them look toned down a little bit. So we're going to get into this because I think that one of the goals of this channel is to bring forth accurate information and useful information, and information that can help the subscribers make intelligent decisions. And there are a couple of issues with the video that Mark put out that I think are very bad advice. And again, nothing against Mark. It's just some of the advice he gave and some of the opinions and some of the statements are 180 degrees the wrong direction from where they should be. So we're going to try to straighten that out so that people that subscribe to this channel can get the real facts, the real information, and make intelligent decisions and not be misled. If they just watched his video and they followed his advice, they'd be very much misled. So let me start with the Batman. There's one for sale right there for $12,000. Now we don't know the condition. It says used, right? We don't know a lot about it, and that's the problem with buying any of these watches used. Even if it's a relatively reputable dealer, you don't really know what you're getting, right? If you're not buying it from a reputable AD, or the real deal. Here's another one. It says the last sale price was $13,100. Okay, and so I'm just showing you the watches here, and now this is the Jubilee bracelet unit. All right, and not a great photograph, but you guys know what these things look like. I mean, you know, I don't have to show you what these watches look like, but that's they refer to as the Batgirl with the Jubilee bracelet. And here's there's a couple of major problems. First of all, he was talking about how he got a great deal on the watch. I think he paid like $7,000 for the watch or something, 7,000 something, whatever the number is. Okay, so he got a good deal on the watch, and he's in effect made all this money on this watch because now it's worth 15,000. Well, here's the deal. First point is you've made nothing until you've sold it. All right, you don't have $15,000 in your pocket. You have a watch on your wrist. There's a huge difference between a watch on your wrist and $15,000 in your pocket. Okay, there are significant steps and risks that you need to take to go from one to the other. All right, so that's point number one. And point number two is he also made the point that if later the market starts getting softer, the supply starts increasing, and so the market gets softer, then you could sell or something to, I'm paraphrasing now. So then you could take action and sell. But here's the deal with these kinds of bubbles is at that point it's too late. Once you realize the bubble is deflating, it's like a game of musical chairs and there aren't enough chairs. And most people get caught standing, okay? So you don't want to wait. You don't want to try to call the top. You don't want to try to predict, okay, this is the absolute top. I'm going to sell right at the absolute top. You don't know what the absolute top is. There are some signs that the market is softening right now. There are already some signs. Just like in the housing market, when the housing market crashed years ago, there were signs, and people that recognized the signs, they sold and got out before the crash, right? There are a lot of people that didn't. So my advice, he says, feel the steel, right? That's his saying. My saying is sell the steel. Sell it at the top or near the top. We're at the top or near the top right now. These crazy prices are not going any higher, folks. They're not. These watches, that watch is not going to be $30,000. Okay, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. All right. So take the money and run. If you can get the money without any major risk, if you can get the money, take the money and run on these steel sport Rolexes that are going for absolute premiums. They are a steel watch. And steel is not, I repeat, not a luxury material. That's just for a heavy use, bang around watch. It's not a luxury metal. Okay, if you want something that screams luxury, that screams wealth, get 18 karat yellow gold, date 8, or something like that. This watch here does not do that, does not achieve that goal. If that's the goal you want, it does not do that. That's just a steel watch, and John Q. Public sees that on your wrist. They're going to think, oh, that's a nice watch or whatever. It's no big deal. They see that same watch or something like it on your wrist in solid 18 karat yellow gold, and they're like, wow. So, and maybe people say, well, yeah, I don't want to impress people. I don't care what they say. Well, if you don't want to impress people, that's fine. It's a moot point. But the point is, if you're buying that watch that's on the screen right now to impress John Q. Public, ain't going to happen. They're not going to care. Okay? So, and especially if you pay 30 grand for it, let's say they go up to $30,000 and you pay $30,000 for it, they're not. If they knew that, they'd probably think you were an idiot. So it would have the opposite effect. Okay, let's take a look at some of these comments because this is not going to be a long show. This is not a complicated topic here. Okay, so, and the other thing is he also, again, indicated that the fact that he paid $7,000 for it, and maybe it's worth $15,000 today, and he bought it 3 years ago. Okay, so that's doubling in 3 years, okay? If he could get 15. I'm not so sure he can get 15. It's the old model. And by the way, the old model with the 48-hour power reserve and the non-Jubilee bracelet, the Oyster bracelet with the polished center links, no way, Jose, no way is that as good a unit as that one right there. That's a major step up. Call it the Batgirl, call it whatever you want. it's a major step up from the previous Batman. Major step up. It's not even a close call. And he was like, oh, I like the presence of the super case. The super case. The super case is ugly. Now, again, let me know in the chat, is it an optical illusion or did they soften the lugs on the newer model with the Jubilee? Did they taper those a little more, soften the super case a little more on that? Because I think they did. Some people say it's an optical illusion. Okay, so we got a comment from, I'm going to keep saying Cheatown, California, because I can do that because I'm the host. So all these Rolex investment advisors are changing their tune very quickly, and they're trying to be coy about it. Really? Okay, so they're starting to realize that maybe it's not a good idea to invest in a whole bunch of steel sport Rolexes? Yes, Rolexes aren't investments. They're just well-made, consumable goods that will always have some value, just like any other well-made thing. Yeah, but right now they're kind of in an overheated bubble, is my point, and that's why I like to sell at the top of any such bubble whenever I can. Hi from Denmark. And just to conclude, no, we won't sell Greenland. However, the North and South Pole are on sale in Poland. Okay. Well, the North has no land. It's just H2O. But South Pole, there's a lot of land there. Let's see here. Don't count your Rolex investment until it's flipped. There you go. That is some sage advice. Watching from Mexico. There we go. The Dow went down today. The Dow took a beating today. Bitcoin did pump a little bit, though, earlier. It pumped back up to, let's see, it's at 10,361 right now. And it corrected back down to below 10,000. So the people that kept saying, oh, no, I'm not going to pay more than 10,000. I want to buy it below 10,000. Well, you had another chance. It dipped down below 10,000, significantly below 10,000. I think it was like 9,500 or 9,400 or something like that. And they're like, well, you know, I wanted it to go lower. No, I didn't buy it. Yeah. We call them no coiners. They don't buy at any price. They just talk about buying. Let's see here. Just like Steve Miller Band, take the money and run. Heck yeah. Go ALTC-1 Rose Gold Brumont. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of rose gold. I'd go with yellow gold any day of the week. Yellow gold all the way. Let's see here. Craig, don't you ever feel like you're the only sane person in this horological lunatic asylum, and yet everyone is calling you crazy? Well, that's the way that would work, right? If I'm the outlier. So there you go. Well, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them don't have as much experience as I do with actually wearing on wrist high-end watches. Like I said, I wore Rolexes for 40 years, high-end Rolexes, Day-Dates, GMTs, Submariners, on wrist all the time. There were brief periods of time in there where I had an Omega on my wrist here and there, but most of the time Rolex, always one Rolex in rotation for 40 years. So most of them can't say that. They can say a lot of things, but they can't say that, most of them. So there's that. Got another wrench in the house. Let's see here. Our Wags, getting ready for my 50th high school reunion party. Oh, well, there you go. All right. He's going to be the best looking one in the whole bunch, I can tell you that. Talk about a class act. Our Wags in the house. Carlos is in the house, another class act down there. I don't even think Carlos has been wearing high-end Rolexes as long as I have. I wonder if Wags has. What was the first year? When did you get your first Rolex? Wags, put it in the chat there. Mine was 1978. 1978. It was a Datejust with an engine turn bezel and a made in USA bracelet, Jubilee bracelet, made in the United States of America. That's how that worked back then. Let's see here. Only 18 karat gold Rolex in my house, no steel. There you go. Yeah, bark finish date 8, 1807. Fantastic choice. Let's see here. The other day, Archie had good words for Craig. Oh, well, there you go. Archie's not a terrible guy all the time. He's hilarious, though. Archie, Archie is one of a kind. He's hilarious. Let's see here. Is a gold date just cool to you or just a poor man's idea? Some of them are really cool. The problem is it's hard to find one in great condition with a bracelet also in great condition. A lot of those had the Jubilee, and a lot of them are going to have a lot of stretch. Those suffer from stretch even more so than the President bracelet. So that's going to be your issue there, is finding a real nice one. I think if you could find a really nice one, I think they're fantastic. I don't think you need the day of the week. And it might be a little bit thinner because it doesn't have that day wheel in there. It might be a little bit thinner on wrist. I think it probably would be. So actually, if you could find a really nice one with a really tight bracelet with a Jubilee with micro adjustments, that would be a cool watch. I would definitely consider that. 100% absolute consider that. But it would have to be in really good shape. Let's see. Tell us more about the Omega. That's a story I would like to hear. Well, I had what happened was I was having problems keeping was it a date just in rotation then? I always had the date in rotation with a steel Rolex, and I think it was a date just at that point in time. It might have been a GMT. I don't recall. But anyway, I was having trouble keeping them both running with wrist movement, switching off. One would stop, and, it was just getting irritating. So I try to keep the watches running all the time so I can just put one on and go and not worry about it, right? So I bought an Omega Speedmaster 120 in quartz one from Colonial Jewelers here in Frederick. And I think it was about $700. This was about the year 2000 or so, somewhere back in there, almost 20 years ago. And so I bought that, and I had it for a couple of years. And there's photos, and there's videos here on my channel if you just search Omega. And then I had a limited edition Omega that I sold to Paul Falpel that I had for a brief period of time. But the 120, I got that because I didn't have to worry about it stopping. Quartz, right? So I wore that in rotation with my date 8 for a couple of years in there. And it was a nice watch, nice and trim on the wrist, very comfortable bracelet. Again, there's pictures of it, and there's videos of it here on my channel, and there's pictures on my Flickr stream. I'll see if I can pull it up here just to show you. It's no big deal. But it was a good watch. It was a good watch. I no good looking watch. Only thing I didn't like about that watch is the skeletonized hands. And I'll tell you what, and it showed every scratch on the watch also because of the smooth bezel. Smooth bezels show every scratch. The bracelet shows every scratch. Those are just not forgiving in that way. A Jubilee bracelet is much more forgiving as far as showing scratches. And that's another point with Mark was talking about. You can polish off the scratches on the center links, on the high polished center links on the Batman. Well, yeah, you can, but that's a pain in the neck. And if you have the Jubilee bracelet of the Batgirl, see, where's the Batgirl? They, believe it or not, those don't scratch that easily. They don't show the scratches like those other flat center links. See, these are so curved that the touch point is a very small point. And so for whatever reason, they just don't show the scratches and it's not as big an issue with the Jubilee. So that's another reason why the Jubilee has another advantage it has over the Oyster on the GMT. I would absolutely go with the Jubilee on the GMT. I had a all black GMT with the Jubilee bracelet years ago, and it was fantastic, super comfortable. Anyway, I've shown you guys those watches before. They're Go to my Flickr if you want to see them. Just search Rolex. There's all kinds of pictures in there. Back in the day. 1980 for RWAGs, 1985, 14 karat date just with a Jubilee bracelet. Okay, so I do even predate RWAGs, 1978. So why the date just bracelet have more stretch than a date 8? It just seems to be the case with the Jubilee. Most of those have the Jubilee bracelet on them. I would not buy one with the Oyster bracelet. That'd be a no-fly zone for me. I just don't like that look. But if you get one with the Jubilee, the Jubilee just tends to, I think, have more stretch issues than the President bracelet. But if you get either one in really good shape, you're good to go. They just take good care of it, and they're going to last. They're going to hold up okay. But if it's been, 30, 40 years of heavy use and it's got a lot of stretch, then, you better get a really good buy on it. Are you aware that the new Date 8 36 have ceramic inserts? Yes, we talked about that on another channel. I did confirm that with my local AD. I haven't confirmed it with my own two eyes as far as actually seeing the inserts in there, but I take them at the word, and I believe that that's probably the case. And I think it has a new movement in it, too. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it has a new movement also. What are your thoughts on the Yachtmaster Platinum 40? It's on my short list. Well, we've talked about the Yachtmaster. Let's see here. I have it up in a tab here from a previous conversation. That right there is gorgeous. If that's the one you're talking about, that's gorgeous. Now, it does have the polished center links, which is the only real downside to that watch, in my opinion. It's got a beautiful case. It doesn't have the super case. That is just an absolute stunner. If that's the watch you're asking about, absolutely do not pass go. Grab it, wear it, use it, abuse it. Well, don't abuse it, but wear it. Heavy use. I call it heavy use when I wear the watch and don't take it off wrist because I think I'm doing something risky or I might bump it or something. It stays on wrist. I call that heavy use. Now, if I'm just banging it on a door handle or something, I mean, that's abuse, right? If you're just absolutely abusing a watch, that's one thing. But if you're just wearing it in your normal activities and you don't take it off wrist, that's what I would call heavy use. You're shooting a gun, you're hammering something, you're whatever you're doing. It ain't coming off your wrist, right? And I don't care if they warn you in the owner's manual and all that to take it off because you're firing a weapon or whatever. No. If these watches can't handle that kind of abuse, I shouldn't say abuse, that kind of use, heavy use, I'm not interested in the watch. And I've said before, if this watch were to fail because it can't handle the kind of use I put it through, I'd be done with Grand Seiko. I would not buy another one. I give zero tolerance. I wore Rolexes for 40 years. I never had any problems. That's what I want out of a high-end watch. That's why I probably would not buy a Patek Philippe because they're too finicky, right? I want something that can handle heavy, everyday use. That's me. That's my use case. That's what I want. Let's see here. Is there any info if the Jubilee bracelet have ceramic inserts in any of these models, Pepsi back? That's a good question. I would like to know the answer to that. That would be a good one to know the answer to. I heard that some of the other models do have ceramic, but I'm not sure which do and which don't. And I don't know if any of the all steel ones do. But that's a very good question. And then 1987 first 18 karat gold date 8. You have seniority, Craig. Well, there you go. And my first date 8 was in 1803 with the conventional clasp, which I really liked. I really liked that. It had a lot of stretch in the bracelet, though. But, I got a good buy on the watch, so it was my first one. But even though it had the stretch in the bracelet, I wore it and it was fine. I mean, it didn't bother me. It was still comfortable. It still worked. Just had some stretch. Let's see. Does Paul still wear his red sub? He wears it occasionally. He's got a bunch of watches and he wears it occasionally. He kept the original bracelet he's got another bracelet on it, and he's got the original bracelet. He just didn't want to put wear and tear on the original bracelet, but he put a replacement bracelet on it. It still looks great with the bracelet he put on it. But yeah, he wears it sometimes. It runs good. Backhoe has shorter or more rounded lugs, by the way. Yes, see, I think it does, and I think that's a big plus. Isaac in the house. In the case that the new Pepsi didn't have ceramic inserts, buyers would be taking them for a ride. How can you buy a 20K USD watch that's going to be all stretched in a couple of years? Well, no, I don't think the steel, these modern steel Rolex bracelets, I don't think you're going to have much stretch issue with or without the ceramic, because they got solid center links and everything. I think they're going to hold up pretty good. I think they're going to hold up many years. So I wouldn't worry about that. I'd just buy it and wear that puppy. Let's see, G-Town in the house. I heard the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak looks terrible as it takes on scratches. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't buy that watch anyway. I just think it's an ugly watch. But anyway, Craig, thanks to your advice, I found a vintage Coach satchel made in the USA for $40. The quality is significantly better than what is sold in the store now. Thanks. Well, there you go. All right. Yeah, buy some really good, well-made vintage stuff when you can. Yeah. Let's see here. You need to wear your watches. Safe queens make no sense. Blue shirt Buddha, a statement of fact. And again, that's not opinion. That's fact, folks. That's the real deal right there. Somebody's going to say, well, that's just your opinion. Yeah, okay, right. Whatever you say. Can you do a review online on the Bremont Waterman? Steve's going to be doing a show pretty soon. Ask him all about the Bremonts. He's got them. He's got them. Be all over Steve on that one. Been wearing my 216570 Explorer 2 Polar almost every day this summer. A truly terrific watch. Okay, well, there you go. Well, talking about Explorers, we talked about one the other day, and I've still got one of them right here in my tab, the good old Explorer 1. There you go. Well, we should just call it the Explorer, right? But there you go. I guess that's the current model Explorer. That's a fantastic piece. Absolutely. All right, folks, any questions at all, just put them in the chat, because we're going to wrap this puppy up because I'm hungry. I got a big event tomorrow. I got the last PPF Family Fundraiser Phenomenon tomorrow. Debbie Williams is retiring and calling it a day as far as the Family Fundraiser Phenomenon that she put on every year for the last, 15 years. She's been doing the PPF organization, the fundraisers, for 27 years. I've been working with her for about 20. And that's it. Tomorrow is it. And I'll have a video up. It's going to be a heck of an event. Joe D. Messina is going to be the headliner, and Debbie's going to perform with her band. Going to have a rodeo. Going to have a lot of good food. The PPF, Patty Pilates Fund Family Fundraiser Phenomenon. Let's see here. I think that's it. You guys don't have any other questions. We're going to wrap it up. But to summarize, sell high, buy low, sell high. We're at high prices right now for these steel sport watches, for the Daytonas, for the GMTs. We're in the high territory, folks, by any measure, right? Now is the time to sell. Think long term, folks, like the Bitcoin Meister, Adam Meister, says. Think long term. Okay? Short term thinkers get fleeced. So think long term. Get out while the getting is good, and wear something else. Let the prices crash, and if you really want that watch, buy it back for half what you sell it for. Let's say theoretically you can get 14 grand for it right now, one of these watches. Sell it for 14 grand, and in a few years when the market crashes, buy it for 7. I think that's a good deal, because then you can take the 14 and you can invest it and let it grow to 20 or something, right? And then buy the watch back for 7. Hey, by my math, you're way ahead of the game. Way ahead of the game. And let's see, Carlos, I'm happy my swap of the Daytona for the 5196. Well, there you go. Absolutely, positively. That was a good deal. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this puppy up. This has been fun. Hopefully, this will help some folks make the right decision. Will Grand Seiko ever go up? Well, they've been bringing out some expensive watches lately. But if you're asking, are you going to buy a new Grand Seiko and then it's going to go up in value, I think that's very iffy. I would not bet on that. I'd not bet on any watch going up in value. It's not what most watches do. So the best bet for you is to buy a watch that you can afford and then wear it and enjoy it and use it. Don't think about just buying a watch because you're going to store value in it and your money's safe in a watch. That's not the way to go, I don't think. So that's my take on that. Thanks, Craig. Sell. There's more to lose than to gain at this point. Well, yeah, see, that's a very good point. What you do, we'll look at the SBGW231, 1 second. Here's the thing. That's a very good point. Is what you should do is and there's that Grand Seiko. Looks like a nice piece to me. Pretty cool looking piece. Let's see how thick it is. Yeah, 11.6 mils thick. Very nice. Very nice dress piece. Absolutely, positively. That looks like a good deal too. Good deal. All right, so here's the thing. What you want to do when you put your money at risk is you want to look at the potential upside. Okay, what is the potential upside of that money you're putting at risk? Right? Like a perfect example is if I buy Bitcoin, okay, if we go back to the Bitcoin, if I buy one Bitcoin for $10,400 right now, okay, what is my potential upside? Okay, well, potentially Bitcoin could go to $100,000. It could go to $1 million. It could go up quite a bit, given its 10-year track record and how much it's gone up over 10 years on average, right? There is potentially a pretty huge upside to that $10,000 invested. Now, there's also a significant risk. That $10,000 could dump down to $2,000. It could dump down to $1,000. I don't think it's going to go to zero, but I mean, you could lose a lot of that $10,000. So it's clearly at risk, but there is a fairly significant potential upside, right? Whereas you take that same $10,000 and you put it in a watch, the upside is fairly limited. I mean, is it going to double? Is it going to go to 20? Maybe, right? I mean, the upside is limited, definitely limited. Now, the downside is a little more limited, too. It's not quite as risky as, for example, Bitcoin, but still there is some downside that we go into a recession and all of a sudden that $10,000 watch is only worth $5,000, right? So there's downside there, too. But the key is I don't think there's as much upside potential. All right? That's the thing there. So, okay, let's see. Be sure to take many pictures of your Rolex on wrist before you sell it. That way you can keep posting on Instagram pretending to still have it until you buy it back for half price. I like that. That's good. That's a good one. Um, I heard that Grant Cardone has this rule: never buy a watch with earned income that is too extreme, only buying a watch with the profits of investments. Well, the rule of thumb I always used to use was to spend 1 week's income on a watch, on a suit, on a nice pair of shoes. Try to limit it to 1 week's income. And then it's not painful. It doesn't affect your life. Now, if you're a high net worth individual, let's say you're worth, even if you're worth $3 million or more, right? I mean, you got a nice nest egg, you're worth $3 million. You can pretty much go out and buy a $20,000 watch, $30,000 watch. It's going to be a minor blip on the radar screen. It's not going to affect your world financially, right? But if you buy a watch and it has a major effect on your world financially, in other words, it's a big chunk of your net worth, and you've got it in watches, that I think is a recipe for disaster. Yeah, financially. So there you go. And when you have financial problems, it can lead to other problems too. Health issues, all kinds of things can stem from a poor financial health can lead to all kinds of other issues as well. So there's that. All right, we're going to wrap this puppy up on that note. We're going to wrap this puppy up. Wear your watches, enjoy them, have fun, and enjoy the rest of the summer, what's left of it. Let's see, the bubble will pop the second the recession arrives. There are already some signs that the watch market is slowing down. Of course, all of the gray dealers are trying to make as much as they can. I love the Tana, but was hard to read sometimes. I agree. That busy dial is hard to read. So there you go. How can you buy a day date with 1 week's payroll? One must earn 1 million years before. Well, no, a lot of people do have high incomes, Isaac. It's a luxury item. Back when I bought my first one, it was, I think I paid about $2,200 for it. Okay. And I was making at that time about $10,000 a month. So it was about 1 week's pay, was what I was making. I was doing really well. I was selling cars and doing really well. And so I bought that watch. And it, like I say, it was it wasn't really a painful thing to do at the time. So, yeah, there are people that are high income individuals that will make, you can buy a date 840 right now for about 28 grand, 28.5 I think is what Dudley paid for his. You don't have to pay list. I think he paid about 28.5. There are people, trust me, there are a lot of people that make $28,000 a week income. And those are the people that should be buying a new date 840. You shouldn't be buying a new date 840 if you make $500 a week. That's not how that's supposed to work. It's a high dollar luxury item that, yes, you should have a high income to buy a watch like that, or have a high net worth. So that's the way that works. 2,200. What you're going to put? Well, remember, Isaac, it was, first of all, it was used. It was about a 10-year-old watch. It was a 1966 model, if I remember correctly. It had the conventional clasp bracelet. It had a fair amount of stretch in the bracelet. I bought it in around 1980, so it was like 14 years old at the time. In pretty good shape. The case was in great shape. Like I say, the bracelet had a fair amount of stretch. And I don't know how much they were new then. They might have been around $3,500 or $4,000. Somebody can check on what they cost new then. But yeah, I paid $2,200 for it. I believe it was $2,200. It was either $2,000 or $2,200. It was in that range. So it might have been closer to $2,000. But yeah. And somebody says a lot of people are buying on credit cards. Well, yeah, you shouldn't buy any of these luxury items if you have any debt at all, in my opinion. You shouldn't even buy these if you have a mortgage. You should pay off all your debt before you're buying luxury items. That's the way I look at that. You also got to remember that there isn't, like designer clothes, luxury cars, and electronics. You will not lose money if bought at the right price. If this isn't like designer clothes, luxury cars, or electronics, you will not lose money. Yes, you lose money on watches. Yes, you do lose money on watches. Even if you buy the watch and let's say you buy the watch today for $5,000 and 7 years from now, it's still worth $5,000. Okay? You've just lost $5,000 because if you invest properly, that money should double in 7 years. So you should have $10,000. So you lost $5,000 by holding on to that watch for 7 years and it not going up in value. Even if it held its value, exactly what you paid for it, you've lost. Okay? So don't be thinking just because you bought a watch and some years later it's worth about the same as what you paid for it that you didn't lose. Yes, you did lose. You didn't make the money that you should have made on that money. It's called a lost opportunity. Opportunity cost. Do math. Come on, do math, folks. How did that day date shine in the Sarasota sun? Day dates do great in any sun. Yellow gold, they do great. 28K day date 40 yellow gold, rose or white gold dealers 29.5. There you go. Did you see Kevin O'Leary trash talking Apple watches in the video? No, I didn't. But the Apple Watch is a great watch. Let's see. I'm going to wrap this up here. The rose gold is stunning. Yeah, I wouldn't go with rose gold myself. By the way, I have the SBGN 005 with me. David in the house. There you go. Coming in handy with the time difference. Yep. Flip that hour hand back and forth. Cost of opportunity. What about the guy who bought a $350 red sub back in 1970 and sells it for 20 grand today? If you run the numbers on it, you've lost money. If you take that $350 and you would have invested it and double it every 7 years, do the math. Come on now. You shouldn't be so challenged in math here. You'll understand that doubling every 7 years, that's going to go up really fast. Probably to a higher number than 20 grand. Okay? Maybe somebody in the chat will do the math for you if you're mathematically challenged. 1970 is how many years here? Let's get my calculator here. Okay, so it's 2019 minus 1970. Oh, for crying out loud. 2019 minus 1970 equals, okay, that's 49 years. So perfect, that's 7 doublings. So you would double it 7 times, okay? So let's do this. 350 times 2, that's 1. Times 2, that's 2. Times 2, that's 3. Times 2, that's 4. Times 2, that's 5. Times 2, that's 6. Times 2, that's 7. You would have $44,800 if you would have invested the money. $44,800. By my math, that's more than $20,000. So, watches are not good investments. And of course, you happen to pick one that, you know, is really desirable. And most people are not going to have, you know, if you could be a time traveler and you could go back and you could buy the most desirable watches and then keep them brand new in the box, right? If you were a time traveler and you could predict that, then yeah, you'd clean up. If you bought some really rare Ferraris and put them in the garage, right, you'd come out ahead. But most people that buy cars and put them in the garage and keep them for 40 years do not come out ahead. They think they do because they paid $15,000 for the car and now it's worth $20,000. But they don't realize how much that money would have grown to if they would have properly invested it. They don't know how to do math. And that's why most people are broke. All right, on that note, we are going to wrap this up. Let's see, I got another comment here. But you have to factor in the recessions. Lots of people get scared and sold off everything at a loss. Well, if you're stupid, yeah, people, You know, if you don't know what you're doing with investing, what happens with investing is the money flows from people that are stupid to the people that are smart. That's how it always works. Money goes from the stupid people to the smart people, right? So you got to decide, are you going to be on the side of the smart people, or are you going to be on the side of the stupid people, right? The stupid people invest in watches and, go in debt and get big mortgages on their homes, and they do all these stupid things, okay? You can do that, or you can do what more successful people do that know a little bit about finance and money. You can do like they do, and then the money is going to flow to them, right? That's how this all works. So there you go. Great math, Isaac said. It seems that Archie has another Patek. Just received the alert. Also, one must add inflation. Well, my calculation is based on long-term investing, following solid investment advice. You should expect to make 10% on your money every year. If you're not making 10 on average now, you're going to have down years and up years. You're going to have a year you make 30%, you're going to have a year you make 2%, right? But on average, over a long period of time, if you're not making 10%, then I say you should fire your investment advisor, okay? You should be making 10%. You should actually be making a little more than that. But on doubling every 7 years is based on about a 10% return, right? You compound that. Your money will double every 7 years. So that's what that calculation is based on. And there are higher risk investments, and there are ways you can make more than 10% on your money. Usually good real estate investments, you're going to make more than 10% return on your money overall, the total return. So there are ways to make more than 10, but I'm being conservative, and I'm saying if you're making 10, you should double your money every 7 years. Okay? So there you go. I got links in the description of this channel. If you want to learn more about all that kind of stuff, follow the links, learn about it. Don't be ignorant. Learn. All right, let me see what else we got, and then we're going to wrap this up. Even if you account for inflation, the 350 in 1970 doesn't come close to 85.50 sub retail today. I don't know what you're saying there. I don't know what that point is. The prices have gone up over the years for new Rolexes. I mean, I don't know what your comment is there. You can enjoy watches, though. You can't enjoy long-term investments until you're older. Granted, the money comes in useful when you are older. That's correct. It sure does. Trust me, it does. So there you go. Hey, I enjoyed life and I invested. You can do both. You can save money and you can invest. You can buy things. You can do all of these things simultaneously. Just don't be stupid about it. Invest at least 15% of your income consistently from the time you're young, and you'll be in good shape. Now, if you spend every penny you make and then some, in other words, you also borrow, then yeah, you'll be broke. You'll be broke your whole life, which is the way most Americans are. I think more than half of the Americans right now are broke. Love your quote, recessions are only money flowing from stupid people to smart people. Well, it's not just recessions, it's all the time. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. Let's see here. Most money managers can't beat the S&P. Of course, some are lucky, but consistently over time they can't beat the market. That's right. And the S&P has returned 10%, I think, on average over the years. I think you can get that just in an index fund. But I do have some pretty good funds that do beat. I'm getting, probably the last 10 years or so, 12, 14% easily on most of my investments. So that's a minimum I want is 10%. Or I get pissed off if I'm not getting at least that. It's less than 10%. 1 plus, okay. I'm saying that accounting for inflation, the 350 in 1970 would be 23.14 today. Yeah, but they don't raise their prices just based on inflation. I mean, since they're been aggressively marketing and building their brand, they're going to raise it more than the rate of inflation because they can. They're going to charge whatever they can get for their watches. I mean, just like our investment returns, I want more than the rate of inflation. That's why I want 10% instead of 3%, right? I want to beat inflation because I want my money to grow as compared to, the buying power. I want the buying power of my money to grow over time. I don't want it to be eaten up. And so same thing with a Rolex. If they can get more, if they can raise their prices by 8% one year and the inflation was 3, then they're going to do it. They're going to charge what the market will bear, right? And they're certainly not going to be constrained by the rate of inflation as far as their pricing. They're going to do their pricing based on what the market will bear and what they can get. Let's see here. A bit more than 7% to double in 10 years. Well, no, I'm saying doubling, and Carlos, I'm saying double every 7 years. You need 10% return. I think it's a hair more than 10% return to double every 7 years. That's what we're talking about. All right, we're going to wrap this puppy up. It's been fun. I'm hungry, and we've solved all the world's problems once again. So let me see if I can get back in here to this puppy and wrap this up. Let's take another look at the time check there. There's that GMT stunner, that 9F movement, just keeping accurate time all the time. That's what that does. And we're going to wrap this puppy up. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe. Click that little bell so you get a notification.